want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Let's talk about this story here. The first black woman elected to serve as a judge in Louisiana's 16th Judicial District has come under fire for speaking out against racial injustice. Last month, the 16th Judicial District Attorney's Office in New Iberia, Louisiana, began requesting that Lori Landry be recused from pending criminal cases on the grounds that she is biased or prejudiced against this office, such that she cannot be fair or impartial. Since then, the situation has escalated. As of Wednesday, Landry was facing more than 300 virtually identical motions asking that she be reportedly removed from upcoming cases. Some examples being used against Landry are comments she reportedly made from the bench, such as, "Black men do not survive traffic stops with the police." Fact. Wow. She also said that officers use the habitual offender statute selectively, which disproportionately puts black people in more harm or risk than anyone else. Landry, herself a former prosecutor, was first elected to the bench in 2002 after spending nearly 9 years at the same DA's office that is now accusing her of unfair treatment. Landry cannot hear or decide on cases while the motion to remove her is being considered. I want to start with you, Johanna. Here's what is happening across this country. And the Trump Justice Department, they are leaders in this. Progressive voices in criminal justice are being targeted. Let me say it again. Progressive voices are being targeted. You have Marilyn Mosby in Baltimore, targeted by cops, targeted by Republicans. Aramis Ayala, the first black state's attorney in Florida, she said, "I am not going to prosecute death penalty cases." Then Florida Governor Rick Scott removed cases from her. In fact, what's happening, go back to Maryland, right now, Governor Larry Hogan has ordered the Attorney General in Baltimore, a Democrat, to take more of the cases from Marilyn Mosby under the guise that she supposedly isn't prosecuting them. The Pennsylvania Attorney General is targeting Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner. I can go on and on and on. And in fact, it was William Barr who went before a police organization a few weeks ago and actually said that these progressive district DAs and judges are causing harm. They want to keep locking people up, and they don't want progressive voices like Judge Landry on the bench, Johanna.
Here's my position on this. When Judge Landry won the election, me and my friends, we were extremely excited because, as you know, Louisiana has one of the most oppressive legal systems in America when it comes to people of color. So we thought that perhaps we were going to get someone on the bench who will do some good and protect the rights. Well, not protect the rights, because a judge, your job is to interpret the law, right? Not to be an advocate. So here's my problem here, right? There is a fine line between advocacy and being a judge. Again, as a judge, your job is to interpret the law. And because she has been so vocal about injustices in the system, and for example, that quote you just shared with us about men when they're stopped by the police officer, and usually they don't get it's never fair, right? So as a judge, you have to be very careful because you have to always appear to be impartial. You have to appear to be neutral. So when you speak those things out loud, people now know where you stand, and motions such as these could be filed to get you recused from certain cases. Now, had it been a white judge or someone who is racist making racist comments, the same motions would have been filed. So again, I think it's good that you have a progressive judge on the bench, but however, we must be mindful because there is a fine line between advocacy and being a judge, and you have to be impartial.
Nah, but here's the deal, Cleo. You can make comments as a judge, but it's not a situation unless you are ruling on a particular case. You can be a judge and speak about exactly what's happening in the criminal justice system. That's not what they're saying. They're not saying that she has incorrectly ruled in cases. They're saying, we don't like your comments.
Well, the motion was filed because she is perceived to not be neutral or not being impartial.
No, that's not what I said. No, that's not. No. the motion was filed specifically related to comments. The motion was not filed as related to rulings from the bench in specific
But those comments
cases.
could lead
That
to her not being impartial.
No, hold up. You can't say comments could lead to something unless it leads to something. So unless, again, if they said, Cleo, that she incorrectly ruled in this case, she applied the law incorrectly, they then can appeal that decision. They then can actually take her up for judicial misconduct. That's not what they're doing here. Right. That's the difference, Johanna.
That's the
Cleo,
difference.
go ahead.
And just because you acknowledge a statistical fact where people that look like you are getting mistreated does not mean you're going to be inappropriate when it comes to making legal decisions. No. And the assumption is that if you have a perspective that's even true around issues relevant to race, you become suspect. And that's racist. Right. And what she's dealing with here is racism. I just hope that there's enough support around her, whether it's community people or other judiciaries, that will help support this woman, because once you get on the wrong side of bureaucracies that are white, you can lose.
No turning back.
So I hope that she has support, but I want to reiterate the fact that just because you have a perspective that's based on fact does not mean you don't have the clarity and the lack of, what's the word that you have to have? You have to have no bias. Doesn't mean that you don't have bias, or that you do have bias, I should say, when you're making legal decisions. This is racist.
Julian, there's a black federal judge who gave a speech talking about Donald Trump and some of these decisions. He's a federal judge. He was speaking about these issues. Just because a person is a judge does not mean they cannot make comments about what is happening in the criminal justice system. But you are, as a judge, you're judged based upon the application of the law.
I think the judge is right for what she's saying. I think she just went about it the wrong way. As a judge, you got to kind of stay impartial in making comments on certain things. Granted, she has a front row seat as far as the cases that are being tried versus Caucasian men, with cases that are being tried versus African-American men. If you take the same charge and see, okay, a Caucasian male is receiving a lesser sentence, but an African-American male is receiving a more harsher sentence, yes, she can make that assumption, but at the same time, a person in her seat, I think she could have figured out a better way and play chess with it and see, okay, how can I advocate this without putting myself in the spotlight in a negative way? So now you run the risk of they're filing a motion to have you removed, and they're bringing up about 300 plus cases against you that you've already sided over. So, yes, she's entitled to express.
No. They're not bringing up 300 cases she decided over. They're bringing up these 300 motions that are nearly identical. What they're trying to do is they're trying to game the system to keep her off of the bench. That's what they're trying to do.
And this is not the first time we've seen this. And we saw this with the ambassador, with AU ambassador to the United States. When you are in certain positions, you cannot be an advocate. You are to...
No, Johanna, there's a difference.
That's just
Johanna, hold on, wait 1 second.
Being an advocate.
1 second. 1 second. We're going to deal with facts here. The person who is the ambassador, that is an appointed position. Appointed. This is an elected position. She was chosen by the people. That distinction must be made.
I think it's important that we look at the fact that some of us and some people in the system want black people to walk around on eggshells and be self-conscious and not express even factual information that shows that they know how race incidents occurs in this country, and that we have to keep on looking at both sides of the room and second-guess ourselves. And I don't think that makes any sense or is fair.
But the fact of the matter is we need more and more progressive judges on the bench. There is no denying that. But I think as professionals, we have to understand there is a fine line between advocacy and upholding the law.
But that ain't advocacy.
But
to say that Trayvon Martin got shot by Zimmerman is not advocacy.
But is she wrong for what she said, though? Is she wrong for what she said? So it's not what she said, it's how she said it.
Because she said it in English.
But she could have done it a different way to the point where she doesn't make herself a target.
I think
she could have done it a different way where she does not make herself a target.
You
Actually,
have to be strategic.
I disagree.
Roland, she could have done it a different way where she's not making herself a target.
No.
Do you agree?
Now, here's the deal, though. You can say it. Because here's why. because of what's actually happening right now, progressive DAs and judges who have said things in the right way, who have said them very softly, who said them respectfully, other forms, are still being targeted and attacked. So the issue is not that, oh, how she said it or where she said it. It's the fact that she is calling out the DA's office. And that's what they don't like. And let's keep in mind, this is a woman who served in that office. What is clear here is there are people who she worked with in that office, and what she is doing is calling them out for how they are targeting people. I'll give you an example. In New York, they passed a law to impact their bail system. They found there's an audio recording of a prosecutor explaining to people how to skirt the rules in order to keep people in jail longer. That's what's happening, and so that's what you're dealing with. We got to be honest. If there are people in DA's office who want to be judges, who want to be for higher office, who use the prosecution of largely black people to advance their careers, and they don't want somebody calling out that because that, they believe, impacts their rise. And that, to me, I think is what's going on here. Final comment before I go to a break.
Mosby is in trouble because Mosby had corrupt police officers arrested. And she broke the line by being in her position and arresting police, and she's under very similar scrutiny.
Nailed it.
Last comment.
Simple as that.
Last comment. Let's be more strategic in our approach moving forward.
Let's go buy some eggshells
Perhaps.
and travel around with a bunch of eggshells.
I think it's a certain way you have to do things.
Obviously, I mean
For white folks.
She just has to be more strategic in
For
her
white
approach
folks.
and utilize her power in
white
a more decisive way to where she can perhaps
Not offend
offset
white
the sentences
folks.
to make it fair and reasonable for everybody, so it's not just African American
But she is fair
males.
and reasonable.
Calling it out is one thing, but you got to have a solution.
right.
How you gonna fix
I
that?
acknowledge racism. I'm fair and decent to everybody.
If you call it out, what's the solution? If you call it what it is and it's wrong, what is the solution? That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Well, one of the solutions.
She calling
is
it out, but what's the
one of the
solution?
solutions-
If you
one
calling
of the-
it out, what
one
is
of
the
Well,
solution?
calling it
One
out
of
is
the
important
solutions.
because
I understand
One
that.
of the solutions.
repress the facts
I'm
of
not-
life.
I'm not
Let me
debating
say
it.
it.
I'm not
I
debating
can
it.
answer your question. Excuse me. One of the solutions is by calling it out, by putting them on notice, by saying, if you sit here and keep playing games with the criminal justice system, I'm going to keep calling you out and exposing you. That is a solution. Last week at Politicon, a group of African Americans were speaking on a panel about being black and covering Donald Trump. Then all of a sudden, this disruption happened at the panel.
They believe that those policies help everyone.
That's true of the Republican Party as well.
Trump has policies that he only believes help his own voters.
That's a lie.
He only talks to his own
That's a
base.
lie.
He
Ask
only
your question.
hears
That's a
from his
lie.
own
And
base.
speaking of lies, I want to talk to April Ryan,
There is
Hold on.
nothing.
the biggest liar in this room.
Hold on.
Yeah, I have a question for April Ryan. I will.
You know, I keep.
Well, then let me ask my question.
Speaking of lies, let me tell you something. My middle name is Truth. April Ryan, Ryan.
Let me ask you a question.
You don't want this.
Hold on, y'all.
You're the one walking away, sweetheart. You're the one walking away. Come back and answer my question. Come back and answer my question.
Please be respectful, but you just said that very
All right, so here it is. Here's my question. My name is Brandon Straub. I created the Walkaway.
All right, folks, don't need to see the rest of that. You probably see the video on social media. And so Brandon Straka, he was the one at the microphone, joins us right now. So Brandon, welcome to Roland Martin Unfiltered. What was the purpose of you going to that panel? What was the purpose of that?
Well, initially, I wasn't even supposed to be going to that panel. It was not my intention to do so. I actually had a booth at Politicon for the Walkaway campaign. Our booth was situated right next to where that panel was taking place. I had a number of people coming to my booth and saying, we're so upset, you should hear the things that are being said on this panel. I was like, what is the panel? What's going on? And people are like, no, you have to go hear it for yourself. So I stepped over, which was literally 5-10 steps away, and began listening. And within minutes, it was very clear what the panel was about. It was a anti-Trump supporter. It was just Trump bashing.
So what were they saying? What were they saying?
Well, from the moment I got there, what I heard was that the MAGA hat was synonymous with the white hood of the KKK, but they said the MAGA hat was actually worse because at least with the KKK, the hood indicated that the people understood that they needed to hide their faces in shame, whereas the MAGA hat actually emboldened racists and bigots. The people on the panel were saying that they have to live in fear every day of Trump supporters, that they have to live in terror, I mean, the name of the panel was Being Black
You said
Trump.
Hold on one second. So you said the people on the panel were saying that they have to live in fear. Did any of the people on that panel actually state examples of how they have been targeted, how they have been harassed, how they've had to hire security? Any of them?
They did not.
Okay. But the fact of the matter is, there are people on the panel who have had to do that. You remember the guy who was arrested? You remember the guy who was arrested, who's in jail, who was sending pipe bombs to CNN and other places, targeting Van Jones? And then when the FBI arrested him, they discovered his computer, and he had a whole list of people who he was researching, who he was targeting, who he deemed to be progressives and critics of Donald Trump. You remember that?
Do you remember when Maxine Waters said that Trump supporters should be kicked out of restaurants?
I asked you a question. I asked you a question. I asked you a question. Do you remember that? Yes or no? No. Do you remember that? Yes or no?
Yes, I remember that incident from years ago. I do.
Okay, actually, it wasn't years ago. And the reason I'm asking you, do you remember that? Because when you say people were making these things, making these comments, and I asked you about proof, I got a phone call from the FBI. The FBI tracked me down in 3 different cities that I've lived in because my name was on that computer. And so when you make the suggestion, or when you imply that somehow these things are not true, that is a lie. I don't know if you've ever had the FBI call you and to tell you that your name was found on a computer of an individual who was making pipe bombs and was sending them out. I can guarantee you, Brandon, that you would not just go, that's no big deal.
Roland, if we're going to have a conversation, make it worthwhile, okay? If you're telling me...
No, I'm sorry. First of all, I asked you a question. No, I asked you a question. You were commenting on what they were saying. I'm giving you an example as somebody who has that as an issue.
On your show. I'm a guest on your show. May I please answer the question rather than having you railroad me and then act like you won this debate?
No. First of all, let's be real clear. Let's just be real clear. That little cute little trick works with your followers. Here's the piece. Did I invite you on the show? Of course I did.
Then let me speak.
I didn't have to. I'm not. Hold on, Brandon, and that's the Brandon. That's the other cute trick y'all do.
You're winning, but that's not how it works. So just let me speak.
Brandon. I'm going to let you speak. What I'm telling you is there's no such thing as, oh, you're talking because you're winning. I asked you a question. So go right ahead.
I was, and you interrupted me. Please let me speak. I'm a guest on your show, okay?
I told you go right ahead, and you're still whining. So go right ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm just trying to set the table so that you'll respect me as a guest on your show.
I've already told you to. I've already said go right ahead, and 3 times now you're whining when I already said go right ahead. So you're wasting time, and you think, and I know how y'all try to use it later. So I've said go right ahead. So make your comment versus trying to keep whining about I can't talk when I just said go right ahead.
Okay, we get it. What I was trying to say to you is if you're trying to suggest that Black Americans in this country have to live in fear of being listed on the FBI because a pipe bomb might show up at their house, then I think that you're really reaching even further than I expected you to reach. The purpose of that panel was for people to get up and say, okay, Roland, I'm speaking. That panel was 7 Black Americans,
but you're not going to misrepresent what I said.
In fear constantly. That panel was 7 Black Americans saying that Black Americans have to live in fear constantly of Trump supporters, Donald Trump, and people with MAGA hats. Now, you're talking about pipe bombs, and that has nothing to do with the conversation. So what I'm trying to say is let's bring it back.
Actually, it does. Actually, it does because the individual who was arrested, The individual who was arrested was a Donald Trump supporter. Let me ask you this question. Have we seen in the last 3 years an increase in the United States of white domestic terrorism and hate groups?
White domestic terrorism. Can you define the term?
Yes. The FBI has actually defined that. That is homegrown terrorists, white domestic terrorists. Have we actually seen that? Do you believe that's actually happened? Because
you just restated what you said. You didn't provide a
do you
definition.
believe?
You just read
words. I'm not. First of all, okay, if you need me to explain to you white domestic terrorists, okay, the individuals who have gone to prison after what took place in Charlottesville, those are white domestic terrorists. So, do you believe we've seen that? Because the FBI sure does.
No, the FBI does not believe that. Or the FBI does not suggest that. What? Absolutely.
Really?
What
I'm
you're
sorry.
going to do now is claim that hate crimes are on the rise.
Can you repeat that again?
Okay.
Can you repeat that again? I want to make sure that you're quoted correctly. I want to make sure, Brandon, you're quoted correctly. You just said that the FBI does not believe we have seen an increase in white domestic terrorism?
No, your question to me was, do I believe there is a rise in white domestic terrorism? And what I said is that,
there? Yes or no?
You're about to tell me that. Go ahead.
I'm asking you yes or no. Do you believe there's a rise in white domestic terrorism in the United States in the last 3 years?
I do not.
So you don't believe it, but the FBI does.
The FBI does not. There's no. What evidence are you using to suggest that the FBI believes that? Are you talking about a rise in reported hate crimes?
No. The FBI director, Wray, has testified about how significant white domestic terrorism is. He has testified on several occasions in front of Congress. And so for you to act as if black folks should not be concerned when there has been a rise in white domestic terrorism. We just dealt with the first anniversary of the shooting of the synagogue in Pittsburgh. That was white domestic terrorism. We have seen
if we were
numerous
having a serious
examples of that.
conversation here, what we would be talking about is the rise in crime. There are so many more crimes perpetrated against who wear the red hat than by anybody who actually wears the red hat itself. Listen, if there's a rise in white domestic terrorism, however you define that term, then that's something that needs to be addressed. What does that have to do with Trump supporters?
No, what it has to do with the fact is in the last 3 years since Trump was placed to the White House, we've seen that rise. And what we're dealing with now is that is a concern of a significant number of people. Now, I got to ask you this question here. You are one of the folks involved in the Walk Away campaign.
I'm
but
the
my question
of
is
the
this
Walk Away
here.
campaign.
And I'm sorry, say it again.
I'm the founder of the Walk Away campaign.
Say it again. So when it comes to that, what is the black involvement in your campaign? And no, let me ask you this question. What is it in terms of black involvement? Because I've had black conservatives who've reached out to me who say they want nothing to do with you or your campaign. And in fact, the guy who's running against Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been highly, I think Antonio Hunter, I believe, I'll pull it up in a second, has been highly critical of you as it relates to African Americans and Latinos. What do you say about that?
What I would say about that is that I would happily provide screenshots for you of that same gentleman calling me a faggot and making homophobic slurs against me and threats against my event. I have this all screenshotted. If that is actually the person that you want to get behind, I think that you're backing the wrong horse, Roland.
No. Actually, I'm not getting behind anybody. I'm asking you a question.
Well, if
also,
that's your
when it comes
witness,
to your move, I'm asking you a question because that was only one question. I'm asking you that particular question.
Wrong guy, Roland.
Because there have been numerous black conservatives who have said that your movement. Excuse me. I'm going to ask the question. There have been black conservatives who have said that your movement is not about empowering African Americans. It's about getting attention for you. So I'll ask the question, what exactly does your movement have to do with Black America? And what have you done to even do anything to address the issues that Black Americans care about?
Sure.
Other than you say walk away.
Right. So first and foremost, I don't believe you when you say that numerous black conservatives have come to you other than the homophobic gangbanger that you're apparently doing business with.
But you also don't believe in the rise in white domestic terrorism. So that's neither here nor there. But go ahead and answer my question.
And you're also buddying up with homophobic gangbangers. So
no, actually, I'm not. I don't even know who he is. Because the reality is, I'm saying the information was no, I don't even know who he is. I brought it up because there are other individuals who have said that he was one individual. They've also talked. They've also one second. They've also raised the question. They've also raised the question. They've also raised the question again about what is the black leadership involvement in your movement? And the question is, what specifically have you done or are doing when it comes to the issues involving African Americans other than yell, walk away? What are you doing?
Right. Okay, so first and foremost, the Walkaway campaign started off as a social media testimonial campaign, people creating videos and written testimonials. So one of the first things that we did was when we started to get an enormous vault of testimonials from Black Americans walking away from the Democratic Party, we created a documentary, a 35-minute documentary. People can watch it right now for free on YouTube. It's called The Great Awakening, Breaking the Chains of the Democratic Party. 20 Black Americans telling their stories of why they're walking away. After we created this documentary, we began raising funds to do screenings around the country. And we do these screenings under the name the Walkaway Black Americans Town Hall. So what I've done is taken amazing Black voices across the spectrum. I'm trying to answer your question, but go ahead.
Who do the funds go to? Who do the funds go to?
The funds go to the Walkaway Foundation, and then they're used to do our events. I've never drawn a salary from the Walkaway campaign, not a single dollar. I've never paid myself a single dollar from the Walkaway Foundation. That's never happened.
Okay, and so you say you're doing screenings in black communities regarding the Walkaway campaign. Is that what you're saying?
Not only are we doing screenings, we're also flying in speakers from around the country, amazing people like David Harris Jr., YG Nightstorm, Angela King, Shamika Moore, Terrence Williams, Chandler Crump. I could go on and on and on.
You said Angela King. You said Angela King and David Harris. Angela King, I believe that's Alveda King's daughter. So, question for you. So, what exactly? What exactly are they doing? What exactly are they doing? Are you providing funds for them to mobilize and organize in Black communities, or is the funds simply going to pay for your film and the town hall?
So, no, we don't pay. We pay for the events that Walkaway does. We don't provide funding for other organizations. And the funding goes to do our events. The events are very costly. We have to rent a venue. We have to pay for flights and hotels for speakers. We have to pay for a lot of security, unfortunately, because liberals and Democrats are violent. We have to pay for marketing. There's a lot of things that we have to pay for. In addition to the fact that we also have to pay for graphic designers, and I have an organization. I have a staff that I have to pay for. I have an organization.
And do you have a diverse staff, and are you also using diverse vendors?
Well, I mean, we have several LGBT people on my staff.
No. Do you have how many Black folks on your staff?
Well, there's 4 people on my staff, period, and they're all white.
How many Black people on your staff?
Well, when we're doing Walkaway town halls, 100% of my staff is Black.
No. How many Black people on your staff? How many Black vendors are you using? Because see, here's the deal. Here's the deal, Brandon. No. Actually, it's not, Brandon, because if you are going to articulate that you have this movement and that you are speaking to and speaking about and you're featuring Black people, I would think Black people will be in leadership. I would think you would have Black staffers. I would think that if you're talking about, okay, empowering African Americans, you might be employing Black graphic designers or Black videographers. And I'm just simply asking a question. I mean, you're raising this money and you're talking about your Black Walkaway campaign. So if you have a Black Walkaway campaign, are you empowering African Americans? Yes or no?
Yes, sir. A videographer is a contracted job, and many of my videographers
are
I'm
aware of that.
People.
I have a company.
Listen to me. When I'm researching the roles for my organization, which is to say executive director, a director of events, etc., I don't base the decision based off of race. I base it off of talent. I don't care.
I didn't say you base it on race.
They are. I care about the color of
No,
their.
I always think it's very interesting when someone is talking about how they are doing something and they're talking about holding walk-away black town halls and things along those lines. And if you're not employing black people, so it gives the impression that really you're a front organization and you're really actually using black people for your own particular purposes. But let me ask you this question here. The whole video we showed at the beginning, you were critical of April Ryan. You were critical of April Ryan, calling her a liar. Why were you targeting April Ryan so viciously? Why? What do you have against April Ryan?
Last question first, which is that I would say that it's much more empowering for a black person to have a voice on a panel, which will then become a viral video, than to, do janitorial services for me or run a sound system.
No, actually, it's not. Actually, it's not. What it actually, when you talk about African Americans, and as somebody who's African Americans, I dare say, even when Michael Steele was chairman of the Republican National Committee, what he also talked about is that black folks simply don't want to be on a panel. Black folks also want to be the ones who's actually funding the actual group or being a participant. See, what's very interesting, Brandon, is that what black people are used to. We're very used to these situations where people use black people for their purposes. And so when I begin to ask these questions and you don't necessarily have answers for, I think that's quite telling. But that's why I'm asking the question, to get a sense of it, because if you're out there promoting and showing African Americans in a documentary, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. Yeah, actually, what I'm doing is I'm actually doing what black conservatives we often talked about with them all the time. See, what you don't realize is I have more black conservatives on my show than, frankly, any show on cable news. So I talk about these things with black conservatives. And what black conservatives talk about is what happens when you have individuals who are not black in the conservative movement who use black people as props, as opposed to black people leading movements where they're also communicating and talking with their people. But I'm going to ask you the question again.
How many people do you have on your staff?
Why do you have such a visceral...
How many LGBT people do you have on your staff? How many LGBT people do you have on your staff?
Wait, but guess what? Hold up. See, that's why I can really help you out. I got LGBT people. I got white people. I got Asian people. Oh, that's what I got. But see, and guess what? I actually employ them.
What roles are they?
I don't simply invite. I don't just invite them to a panel. See, you thought you were going to get cute, and it didn't work. But I'm going to ask you again. Why do you have such hatred for April Ryan, which you viciously attacked her at that panel? Why?
I don't have hatred for April Ryan, but what needed to be done was for April Ryan to be called out. Now, she, much like yourself, is a person who hides behind her race, and she also has the added benefit of hiding behind her gender. And so,
no, I don't. I don't hide behind my race.
Yes,
I'm real front and center.
No, you're not.
And what you try to do, I can make the case you try to hide behind LGBT, but I'm not going to say that because no, I'm not. Here's the whole deal. This is very simple. You stood up at a panel, calling her a liar, blasting her. Again, what is she lying about? What is she lying about? Do you have facts? Do you have receipts? What is she lying about?
Well, first and foremost, being on that panel and telling everybody in that audience that as a person of color in America, they need to be afraid of Trump supporters is a lie, number one. Telling her audience that Donald Trump called Nazis in Charlottesville good people is a lie. Saying that Donald Trump mocked a reporter's disability.
What he actually said is there were good people on both sides. That's what he said. He said there were good people on both sides. I mean, I know it's hard for you to have to own up to a fact, but he did. And even people in his administration, like Gary Cohn, disagreed with him. Even Senator Tim Scott disagreed with his comments.
Okay, if we're going to talk about facts, Roland, then let's talk about facts. What else did he say that day? Did he also say that he openly denounces white supremacists? Did he say that, Roland? Because we're talking about facts.
Actually, right? he was forced to do that. Then he was forced to then he tried to walk back his comments a day after. That's what you're dealing with. So you can sit here and play games, but we know what the truth is. But it's okay.
No, you don't know what the truth is, Roland. You wouldn't know what the truth was if it came in and bit you. Because what happened was
black conservatives, black Republicans.
Donald Trump was saying that in Charlottesville, what happened was that there were people, in addition to white supremacists, Nazis, whatever, the bad guys that were there on that side, there were also people there who were there to protest the statues being
I'm
torn
sorry.
down.
You said the bad guys on our side? What side was that?
No. I was actually trying to agree with you for a moment that there were people at Charlottesville.
I'm just saying, what's on our
who I
side?
think were open white supremacists and neo-Nazis. But there were also people there who were trying to protest the statues being taken down. Just as there were people on the other side who were there to protest white supremacists, but there was also Antifa. So there were good people on both sides, and there were really bad people on both sides. But Donald Trump did not say that
who were the good
neo-Nazis and white
people?
supremacists
Who were the
are
good people on? Who were the good people on the side with the white supremacists? Who were those people?
I'm saying that there were people there who were there to protest statues being taken down, who were not neo-Nazis or white supremacists themselves. And those people,
were these the same people who were these the same people with their tiki torches who were making their anti-Semitic comments the night before the University of Virginia?
Probably not, because I'm pretty sure those were the white supremacists.
Brandon, this real simple
matter,
here.
Roland.
That is this here.
Facts matter, Roland.
It's real simple. That's very simple here. No, facts do matter. And what we have that matters is that you have individuals who are very supportive of this president, who have some fundamental issues with the demographic changes happening in this country. And what I would dare say is that if you are trying to make an argument, that's very true. If you're trying to make an argument as to why folks should walk away, make a logical argument. But what doesn't make sense, and again, as somebody who has these conversations with black conservatives, I would dare say maybe you should have discussions with them. Maybe you should have real conversations about your approach when it comes to calling out folks like April and others, because somehow that's not actually going to get black folks coming to your side. It's not. What's going to actually, what might appeal to black folks, if you're making a reasonable argument, that's what might make sense.
Okay, but I hate to break it to you, Roland, but the problem is black people are coming to my side and black people are walking away, and I don't have to make up statistics because the testimonials speak for themselves.
These the same? Donald Trump is polling at 1% among black people. How many are coming to your side?
Well, do you remember the polls when they said that Donald Trump had a 3% chance of winning? How did the polls work out that time, Roland? But here's what I would suggest. I would suggest you go to Walkaway Campaign YouTube channel and watch the testimonials of black Americans who are walking away from the Democrat Party.
When Donald Trump,
documentary,
when Donald Trump is polling at Brandon, when Donald Trump, Brandon,
go on YouTube and watch the Walkaway Black Americans Town Hall, where you can see black Americans coming to support our events. It's happening, Roland.
Brandon's real simple. Brandon's real simple. Brandon, again, no, I know got folks like you and Candace Owens and y'all yelling is happening. But here's what we do know.
Well, that's because you have me on your show and you won't let me speak because you're afraid of what I'm going to say. And you know that I'm right.
No,
and you know
Brandon, you did speak. But again, that's a part of the game. But it's all good. It's all good. Here's the whole deal, Brandon.
Because you know that the stranglehold on black Americans is over. Black Americans are not buying your crap anymore, and they're not buying April Ryan's crap. They know they're being used. They know they're being manipulated. They know that they have a choice, and they know that you're a liar. And April Ryan is a liar.
I would dare say,
I
would dare say the black people being used are the ones who are following you as you raise money off of black pain and black anger, and then you're also not funding or helping black people. Brandon, have a great one. Look forward to seeing you out there on the ground out there. And I'll try to find more. I'll try to find more of that 1% of black folks supporting Donald Trump. So Brandon, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. All right, folks. The Winston-Salem Forsyth County School Board voted against a proposed mandatory African American history class. The vote was 7-1 against the class, even though during the council meeting, 28 folks spoke in favor of the history class, including one city council member. Teachers complained that they teach British literature, even though none of the students at the school are British. The 7 board members who rejected the proposal said they needed more time and more data. I'm sorry, Greg, of course, you chair the Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University. You're in North Carolina. I would think in North Carolina you might want to know more about black history than British history.
Well, I mean,
and are they the same people who say listen to the teachers?
Yeah. Well, Roland, I guess, you know, and I do have some direct experience with this, not in North Carolina, but in Philadelphia. You know, I was the leader of the curriculum team that wrote the curriculum framework for the first mandatory African American history course in Philadelphia Public Schools. Really the first public school in the country, first major school district to make it mandatory. It was from 2005, 2006. And what we had to do, people have to understand, and this doesn't make it right, but this is the logic. And you know, reading that debate, there is something called infusion. The infusion attitude is whatever the subject, you have to infuse content from anybody involved. So, for example, if you're teaching a British literature class, understand that that means Jamaican literature. That means Trini literature. That means the blacks in Great Britain. That means the blacks in English-speaking West Africa, like Ghana or South Africa. And so if you say British literature, you must infuse it with the African presence. That's one strategy. The other strategy would be to have a single class that focuses on the experiences of African people. In this case, in North Carolina, it would be African American history. What we did in Philadelphia was do both. K-8, because you don't have subjects in K-8. You do math, you do literature. You infuse black content in all of the areas. And then when you get to high school, you have a mandatory class in African American history. Finally, here was the thing that we found interesting. Then we said, since you teach world history in 9th or 10th grade, it's got to be now world history. Where are the indigenous people of North America and South America? Where are the Chinese? Where are the people who are not European who are in Europe, like the Roma or the so-called gypsies that they use the slur word? My point is this. It gets complicated in the politics of curriculum. And in North Carolina, the dodge, and I do believe it is a dodge here, is them trying to say, we really want to do infusion, because mostly what infusion means is they drop a few Negroes in February and forget them the rest of the year.
Yeah. Scott, at the end of the day, what we're dealing with, well, at the end of the day, Scott, what we're dealing with are folks who want to, frankly, limit this to 28 days in February, when the reality is, if you look at the history of North Carolina itself, look, I'm born and raised in Texas. A requirement in 7th grade in Texas is to take Texas history. So to act as if you can't have a mandatory class on African American history makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, what are they afraid of? I was going to ask my professor here.
Black people.
Right. But why are black people and our history, our successes, our failures, our oppression, our overcoming, our succeeding, what is so frightful about that to people that don't look like us? I've never understood that. Why does the race question, we can get beyond the guilt. You get beyond guilt by talking about it and teaching it. I mean, are we still going to teach the course that says Jesus was white-skinned and blue-eyed when he was born in the Middle East, and he was of matted hair and olive skin? I mean, that's a whole nother discussion.
Well, actually, I want to correct you. He wasn't born in the Middle East, because the Middle East didn't even exist as a name until long after
he was born in that region. Then I'll say the region, which was where.
Okay, the region is Africa. So just say the continent. The region is Africa.
The continent, then.
The Middle East did. Okay, the phrase "the Middle East" didn't exist at that time.
I stand corrected, but my point remains.
Of course you do.
That these images. Hey, you know, never mind. The images and the fear of white people in confronting black history and what we've gone through is a powerful story, not only in America, but world history. We learn from it, and we can't get past the race issue and the race questions we have until we start having a real dialogue about it rooted in honesty.
Lauren?
Yeah, so I mean, so many of these things to me are a tour of ego. Anytime you have to choose one thing over another, or at least you perceive it as choosing one thing over another, you're now announcing, whether it's formally or just sort of in the ether, that one group is more important than the other. And I think, frankly, the fear is that my group is now not as important because I'm teaching somebody else's history. I mean, that's one thing. And so, I mean, so much of our history is infused with people trying to tell themselves that they're better than another group. And when you're teaching history on an equal level, and you're prioritizing or making equal that other group, you have to then admit, uh-oh, we're equal. That's hard for a lot of people. So right there, I think, you know, that touches off an entire debate within itself. To say nothing of the fact that a lot of the people who have brought up in this country as so-called professors and teachers are brought up on a history that does not include us. So now they've got to learn and confront all of that. And so I just think that that's a highly complicated question in terms of them having to deal with our history, meaning African-American history. But them prioritizing us has never happened.
But that's a sad commentary in 2019.
I'll tell you this.
Very sad.
I'll tell you this. My wife and I don't have biological children. But if we did, all y'all teachers, y'all would have caused some serious hell in your classrooms because they would have been correcting teachers constantly, Greg. I would have been getting phone calls like, Roland, your son is unruly. I'm like, no, he right.
He right. But let me ask you this right quick, Roland. I know we got to move on, but let me ask you this. Since Texas history is mandatory in the Texas public schools, when they teach it, do they include the African presence and the Latino, Latinx presence in the history of Texas as it was taught when you took it? I don't know if you heard
Barely.
It. Oh, okay. I'm looking.
Barely.
You said
no,
barely.
But this is also why, right? But this is also why when we talk about politics, why we have to expand this conversation because who sits on the Texas State Education School Board?
That's right.
Which controls the textbooks. See, and the thing is, and this again though, this is where I think people have to understand. You have to connect the dots between politics, power, and education because there are only 3 states in America that determine Texas school textbooks for the whole nation: Texas, California, the state of New York. Right. Those 3 states buy more textbooks than all the other states combined. And so how those states go, then you understand how these textbooks are written, which is one of the reasons why I support, frankly, not physical textbooks, but the software where you can immediately change it, where you can make some modifications to it. But also the people out there who ask me, why do I support charter schools? Primarily because if I got a school, guess what? I get to determine the curriculum. I'm not waiting for somebody else to do so. What we're dealing with here, though, is still this constant ongoing fight to have full inclusion of our story in the American experience. So actually, it's not, from my view, it's not mandatory African-American history. It's called American history, just emphasizing the African-American perspective.
But
all right, folks, got to go to a break right now.
Full inclusion of our story means that they have to admit all the wrong stuff that they did for 400 years. That's where the problem comes.
No. I
mean, they have to confront that. They have to confront that their ancestors did something for 400 years they don't want to talk about. So that's the catch.
Full inclusion means factual, and that is always the case there because folks also want to change, just like when they tried to change in Tennessee and Texas, slaves to indentured servants.
Right.
No, that's 2 different things.
Right.
But again, and so we have to be on the lookout for all of that as well.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible.
Let's go to Prince George's County, y'all, where, of course, they're having some issues there, and they want the police chief there to resign. The police chief is Hank Stawinski. The petition comes after a 24-year-old man was severely injured during a traffic stop when officials attempted to arrest him. According to the police officials, DeMonte Ward Blake attempted to flee from custody while handcuffed when officers brought him down, injured his spinal cord, leaving him paralyzed from the waist down. In a news conference, Stawinski defended the officers' actions, stating that they did not mean to hurt Ward Blake and calling the incident a horrible accident. The petition has caused divisiveness in the community, with some faith-based leaders supporting Chief Hank Stawinski and others protesting him. Senior pastor of Reed Temple in Glendale, Maryland, Reverend Mark Whitlock, will be holding a town hall at his church on Monday to discuss police and community relations. He joins us now. Reverend, glad to have you here. First, I'm going to start with Reverend Whitlock first. Man is paralyzed. And then the answer is, hey, it's a horrible accident. Freddie Gray was killed as a result of his treatment in Baltimore. I'm sorry, black folks not going to accept, hey, my bad.
First off, thank you for blistering Brandon. You did a wonderful job of taking that man to task. I felt like you was taking him out to the shed and giving him an old whipping that we would normally do in church. So hats off. Keep up that work. I'm going to bring you in to talk to the young people in our church because we need more people like you. 1965, Jimmy Lee Jackson
I'll be happy to be there.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Right. Thank you. 1965, Jimmy Lee Jackson murdered by state police in Alabama. One of the first casualties of the civil rights movement. We can keep going on, and then the NAACP, of course, certainly lifted the thought that a black man was lynched every day in our country. If we think about Michael Brown, if we think about Freddie Gray, if we think about Eric Garner, if you think about Trayvon Martin, we can even talk about Rodney King, who was beaten severely. The real challenge that we have is what King said. I won't remember the chatter of a Brandon, but I'll remember the silence of my friends and the silence of the church. And so we at Reed Temple, we're holding a symposium, we're holding a town hall, and we've invited public policy makers, we've invited the police, we've invited the Change of Color and other nonprofits on Monday, November the 4th at 7 p.m. at Reed Temple, 11400 Glendale Boulevard, Glendale, Maryland, to come and see. I'm the new pastor. I came out of Los Angeles, California. You and I met back there when I was at First AME Church, and we dealt with the Rodney King issue,
right. Yep.
and we dealt with all the other issues. We're dealing with the issues here in Prince George's County. I brought with me Reverend Joseph Deck. Reverend Joseph Deck is responsible for the men of our church. We have about 14,000 members. We're the largest AME church in the world. We're excited about the fact what Reverend Deck is doing. Reverend Deck should talk about some of the complaints, some of the issues that our young men are facing, not only in Prince George's County, but throughout the DMV.
Thank you, Pastor.
Reverend, your comment, please.
Sure. As I'm the minister of men for almost 3,000 men at Reed Temple AME Church, and one of the things that come up a lot at our church is when they see those blaring lights, they break out into cold sweats. They remember the talks that we give. We do role playing. Everybody here knows that. Put your hands on the wheel, all of that stuff. But in the heat of the moment, when the nerves are real high, they are not quite thinking in an orderly fashion. And we have a history. I don't have to run the history down here in Prince George's County, where when there's a confrontation, when there's a stop, a traffic stop with police officers, more often than not, and I think there was a Maryland study that came out of the governor's office, Lil O's in 2017, often that thing comes out at a like 30% that there is a charge or an incarceration or an altercation. And when you look at other racial groups, that drops down significantly. Therefore, it identifies a problem.
So, Roland, you know the work that we have to do. We have to make sure that we have public policy, but not only public policy, but we also must make sure that our young millennials, like my brother to my left, are engaged in the political process, that are engaged in civic engagement. It's not enough for us just to protest, but it's enough for us to go out and vote. It's enough for us to agitate, irritate, to make sure that, one, we have cameras on every police officer, the body camera, so that we can see what's going on. Yep. Right now in Prince George's County, we don't have cameras on police officers. Number two, the number of African Americans in leadership in Prince George's County as far as the policing agencies go. And then number three, is there a police review board? Is there someone that is really challenging what these cases are? And we've had some cases go to court. We've had some cases convicted. But we have to have the feeling that everybody has a voice at the table. And that's what's going to happen on Monday at Reed Temple. At 11400 Glendale Boulevard, Glendale, Maryland.
All right, gentlemen. Well, look, good luck with that, and certainly keep us abreast of what happens there at Prince George's County.
Can I offer one more thing? Your friend and my friend, John Bryant.
Yeah, go ahead.
Your friend and my friend, John Bryant, well, he's going to be here on the 8th. If you have time, I know you're busy. You may be in New York. But John Bryant and I are putting on a business symposium.
November 8th or December 8th?
No, November 8th, if you're going to be in Prince George's County.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, I'll be broadcasting our show from Cabo, from the Life Lux Jazz Festival, so we'll be there.
That's really like hard work, you know what I mean? That's
Somebody got to do it. Somebody got to do it.
You know, I don't know. Have you been in?
Somebody got to do it.
Have you been getting money from the walkaway movement? I just want to know.
Oh no, trust me. No. When it comes to me, the walkaway movement is the runaway movement because they run away from Negroes like me.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Gentlemen, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. All right, y'all. Let's talk about, Lord have mercy, Donald Trump. I'm going to get to the booze in a second that took place at the World Series. But first off, y'all, on Friday, this weekend, there was a forum that took place on the campus of Benedict College in Columbia, South Carolina. It was the 2020 Bipartisan Justice Center. The whole goal was to talk about criminal justice reform. It was a presidential forum. 10 Democratic candidates were invited. Then Donald Trump also was invited. But things begin to change because Trump goes there and he doesn't take questions. He gives a speech. Then he gets awarded by the 2020 Justice Center, which ticked off a whole lot of people. They're trying to figure out what in the hell is going on. Senator Kamala Harris, she lit it up by saying, I ain't showing up. And then Steve Benjamin, the mayor of Columbia, said, I will organize an event for her on the campus to allow all students and others to attend. And then when she protested, it caused the original sponsor to pull out, and Benedict College took over the forum. What in the world went on? I said, well, one of the co-chairs is Tashara Jones. She is the treasurer in St. Louis. She's also the Democratic co-chair for the 2020 Bipartisan Justice Committee. Tashara, glad to have you here. First and foremost, I'm trying to understand, okay, so was Donald Trump supposed to come there, speak, and take questions? Because this morning when I talked to the president of Benedict College, she said that was the original plan, but then the White House declared Friday an official White House event, which changed everything. What happened?
So Dr. Rosalynn Artis is definitely correct. The White House changed it to an official White House event, which means that then they took over everything, who could be in the room and everything. So once they changed it, it was out of our hands.
All right. So why were they allowed to change it? Why didn't your group say, no, you're a declared candidate. These are the original rules. This is how we're going to proceed. And either you could accept those rules or not.
Well, I'm not trying to throw any of my cohorts under the bus, but I wasn't involved in the discussions to arrange his visit.
Whoa, hold up. You're the co-chair.
But I am we have a Democratic co-chair and we have a Republican co-chair. And so I think of those as caucuses, right? So my responsibility was to make sure that we could get as many Democratic candidates there.
Okay, but if this is a bipartisan effort, again, I don't understand how y'all work, but if this is a bipartisan effort, I would think that both sides are sitting at the table going over the plans, going over who gets there. So, for instance, I was told that Governor Weld, Joe Walsh, and Mark Sanford were invited. Well, they've been saying on social media, no one contacted them, and they were trying to get invited. Can you answer that?
I cannot, because again, all I was responsible for was the Democratic side. As the Democratic co-chair, I was in conversation with the campaigns that I could get in touch with to see if they wanted to come, to send them letters of invitation, to confirm the details, to confirm, to pass them off, to make sure that, what part of the schedule, which day they were on, because we split them up between Saturday and Sunday. And that was my responsibility.
So who handled the Republican stuff?
So as far as I know, our Republican members handled the Republican side. So that's our founder, Ashley Bell. He's a Republican. And I know that he was in close contact with the administration to try to see if the president was going to come.
But here's the problem. Why was Ashley Bell even involved? Because Ashley Bell works for the administration.
Well, you're going to have to ask those questions to Ashley Bell. And I can't speak for, the whens or the whys or the whats. But what I can say is that we made history this weekend. We had a major presidential forum thrown by a Black organization on a Black college, one of the #1 HBCUs, right? Benedict College. and many of the students there got a chance to interact with and interview the Democratic presidential candidates about the #1 issue that's important to Black people, which is criminal justice reform.
But what did happen, though, of course, after Trump spoke, first of all, this award that he received, was it your group that gave him the award? Were you aware he was getting this award? Was that decided by both sides? Or how did that happen?
So I unfortunately was not aware that that there was even a plan for an award, and I didn't arrive on campus until Saturday night.
All right, so I'm just confused. I'm just being straight up. I'm familiar with the group in that I remember some stuff that in 2016 they were trying to get me to attend a particular event, but I'm really confused here. Okay, so this is just sort of how my brain works. Mm-hmm. If I'm a part of a bipartisan group, then I'm thinking that the Democratic people, Black people, are sitting in a room with the Republican Black people, and both are communicating over all of the details, so we're on one page. So what you're saying is that you didn't know what the Republican stuff was happening. They didn't know what was happening on the Democratic side. You don't know that an award was given. So is that how business is done on everything in this group?
No, Roland, and you're right. You know, I believe that this was, you know, a huge fallout of communication within our group, and I will take responsibility for that as well, because again, I didn't know. I was, you know, I'll be totally honest with you. I was at homecoming at Hampton, and I started getting text messages on Saturday saying, "Hey, you know, did you know Trump got an award?" And I didn't know. So, you know, a lot of our membership was blindsided, but, you know, we're also learning a lesson from this. You know, we can either take this as a learning experience and move forward in a more organized fashion, or not. And I think we're going to do just that. We're going to make sure that we are all on the same page, that everything is communicated, and that everybody is that everybody's on the same page with all of the details going forward.
So, for instance, one report said that only 9 Benedict students were able to attend. When I talked to Dr. Artis this morning, she said there were another 30-some-odd students. She said she counted them. The room only held 267. So who are the people who were invited on Friday? Even that, it was a White House event. Did they determine who got invited, or did your group did?
No. So again, when the White House declared it an official visit, they made all of the invitations. So it was South Carolina politicians and their guests and White House staff and press corps. So when they take over, you know, we lose control of the event. But just like Dr. Artis said, there were more than 10 students in the auditorium. You know, it seats 267, and there were over 30 in attendance. So from your perspective, first, was it wrong for him to be given an award? 2, was it wrong for this to become an official White House event? 3, was it wrong for him not to take questions? So just from my perspective, Tashara Jones, not speaking as the Democratic co-chair of 2020, so just me and you, no, I would not have given him an award. I think he should have taken questions from the students. And what was your third question?
The third question is, should they have been able to take over your event?
I don't agree with that. But, you know, the White House does a lot of things that I don't agree with.
So,
I think that
go ahead.
This was an opportunity for students to have one-on-one interaction with the president, and that didn't happen.
Senator Kamala Harris was supposed to be there on Saturday. She said that she was going to pull out of the event in protest, was going to have her own event. Then we were told that that 2020 pulled out as the presenting sponsor, and Benedict College took over the event. You said you got there on Saturday. Is that what happened?
No, I wouldn't say that is exactly what happened, because I spoke Sunday morning. and also closed out the event by giving students the instructions for the HBCU straw poll that we're conducting with all the HBCUs in South Carolina. But I will say that, our staff was still there interviewing the candidates. Every candidate that was interviewed on Saturday and Sunday was interviewed by a 2020 member or introduced by a 2020 member. And also our staff was behind the scenes helping with production for the event.
So basically it was still a 2020 event.
In conjunction with Benedict College. I want to make sure that Benedict College gets its due. Their staff and faculty and students really showed up and made this event a success.
But it's also, to be perfectly honest, it made Benedict look bad because people on social media were trashing the university, were critical of the university, and frankly, they've had to go into damage control. Initial reports said that students were locked down in dormitories, forbidden to leave. In talking to President Arda, she said that it's common when you have motorcades, the presidential motorcade coming. She said the same thing happened when President Obama came to campus. And so with all this drama around it, actually hurt Benedict.
Yeah, and I would also say it hurt our organization as well. When the White House changed it to an official visit, protocols changed and guest lists changed and a whole host of things just, were up, just thrown up in the air, and we had to adapt. But I would say that Saturday and Sunday, I spoke to some students myself, spoke to some other people who attended. The students really enjoyed themselves. And again, were able to interact with candidates. I was backstage with several of them as they were interviewing Elizabeth Warren and really giving her some hard questions. So I don't think that would have, we have to have these conversations about criminal justice reform, and why not on an HBCU campus? Because it affects our kids more than anybody else.
All right, then. I would love to connect with the Republican co-chair, to have them on this show to explain what took place. I think they have some answering to do, and they need to do so and talk directly to black people, because this was positioned as a black organization, a group of black Democrats and Republicans talking about criminal justice reform, and frankly, that got overshadowed as a result of what took place here.
It did, and that's unfortunate, but I also think that, we want people to remember that, again, we made history by having this important discussion with 10 candidates and a sitting president on the campus of an HBCU. And one of those 10 candidates may well be our next sitting president. So they hopefully will remember this visit, the time that they spent with the students of one of the top universities in the HBCU network.
All right, Tashara Jones, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you. I want to go to our panel here. Bottom line is, the Democratic side, people in this group here, they got screwed.
They did.
And I just don't understand how you have a bipartisan organization that don't do stuff in a bipartisan way.
No, it's like two different organizations under one umbrella dealing with parallel tracks. Benedict College got played. What you had on Friday was a Trump rally on an HBCU campus. They flew in Republicans from across the country. This Ashley person,
Ashley Bell, again, who used to be a Democrat, flipped to Republican. Ashley worked for the administration. So he's a founder of the group, but he was a Democrat. But he works for the administration. Why in the hell is he involved in the planning of this event when he works for one of the declared candidates?
So, basically, again, it's regrettable that the college got played, because it's always good to see people on an HBCU campus. But this was a Trump rally on an HBCU campus. And he did not engage.
And that's what he wanted. He wanted the photo op. And Walter Kimbrough, the president of Dillard, he tweeted, he said, I won't call this a Trump visit to an HBCU unless he took questions from HBCU students.
And he wouldn't take questions. Students were sequestered. They were told to either go home for the weekend or stay in their dormitories. True, whenever there's a motorcade, there is some security. But young people their First Amendment rights were shut down. Many of them want to protest. They were not able to do that. They were told that if they did anything, they would be subject to disciplinary action. Now, back in my day in the 70s, all you had to do is tell me I was going to get disciplinary action, and I'm like, okay, it's on. But young people these days are a lot more cautious, and obviously your parents are not sending you to school to get kicked out. But this was horrible, Roland. I was so disappointed and just repulsed by the way that man used black people.
Avis, so now we know the reports that the sponsor pulled out was a lie.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. What happened here was that the Trump employee, who is the co-founder of this organization, colluded with the people in the White House to provide this photo opportunity for him at an HBCU where he could give them this award.
And I'm told two people were for the White House were involved. Ashley Bell and Jerron Smith. The same Jerron Smith who went on Don Lemon's show on CNN Friday night defending what took place, I'm told, by Republicans and Democrats, that they were heavily involved in the planning of this entire event. Well, were the candidates, were folks on the other campaigns, were they heavily involved? That they flipped this whole thing. It was supposed on Friday. It was supposed to be a speech and a Q&A. They turn it to a White House event knowing full well they take everything over.
Absolutely. This was not, she found out about it at the last minute. But let me tell you, this was not a last minute decision.
Nope.
Okay? It took time.
You don't move the president in a last minute decision. There's an advanced teams that are involved.
Exactly. This was planned from the beginning, and she got played, and I don't understand how she can trust them moving forward to doing anything with them moving forward.
I don't even understand how they have an organization. I mean, it's supposed to be a bipartisan organization. Republicans over here, Democrats over here. You're not talking. But Avis, the other thing is, I mean, President Roz Artis has been very defensive, and either she got played or she colluded.
No.
I don't think she was in on it.
I don't think she colluded. Here's what I think happened. And again, in talking to her today, I think what happened here was an organization that says, we want to hold this event on your campus. Okay, great. Just like ABC had the debate on the campus of TSU. They come to you and say it's going to be bipartisan. We're inviting Republicans and Democrats. As the organization, you put the event on. Benedict says, no problem. We'll avail ourselves to it. We're in a state where it's going to be crucial to black voters in South Carolina. And all of a sudden, internal politics, where they don't know what in the hell is going on here, where the Republicans are like, yo, guess what? We can flip this thing, and we'll get the photo op of Trump coming to HBCU, and we'll call this thing a White House event. And guess what?
No question.
It's game on.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, Senator Kamala Harris blows this thing up, says, I ain't coming. And then, according to Artis, the rules were changed. She said that initially the Democratic candidates agreed to have remarks and then a Q&A. After what Trump did on Friday, she said to me this morning on Tom Jordan Morning Show, she said that they gave the candidates options. Do you want to solely give a speech and no questions, or do you want to stick to do the original rules, question and Q&A? They all chose comments and then also Q&A. But the problem, which I think Harris is right, Trump should have had to answer questions.
Absolutely.
He should have had to answer questions because he touts the First Step Act. But by asking questions, they would have been able to ask him about why is it that you are against police consent decrees? Why are you using federal prisons? Why are you sitting here on one hand talking about I'm touting criminal justice reform, but over here contributing to mass incarceration? Never getting to ask any questions because now it's a White House event. That was the game. Benedict got played.
Yeah.
And this is why the message to any HBCU moving forward is you should be involved in every step of the way, all the planning, and you know what all the rules are, and you say, unless these things happen, no candidate will be able to step foot on this campus to avoid the photo op and getting played.
Absolutely.
But you know, one of the
things I was going to say super quickly, this was advertised as a candidate forum.
A presidential forum.
Exactly. He was not supposed to. It was not characterized that he would come near Trump
give a speech.
He was supposed to be a forum participant, just like the rest of them.
The other thing, though, Abe,
but guess what? But again,
you talked about
other Republicans didn't get invited,
right?
Which says Ashley Bell, Jerron Smith, and to all the Republicans in this 2020, did y'all collude to keep the other Republicans out?
And of course they did. But the other thing, Avis, you said earlier, you don't move a president around. It's not last minute. No. So I do believe. I mean, Benedict College has a security force. They have people who do logistics. This was not a surprise.
Now remember, he was still coming. So first of all, the logistics side, he was still coming. What changed
is that so you had the same advanced team, same security, whether he was in a forum or giving a speech. The difference by making it in the White House forum is that they begin to invite the other outside people.
Right.
That's the difference. And so, still, if I'm Benedict, I'm sitting here going, now if I'm Benedict, like when all of a sudden this is a White House event, now at that point, if I'm Benedict, I go, oh no, you ain't changing the rules. This will either be a forum or there will not be a speech.
The only problem with that, Roland, speaking from my former perch as an HBCU president, is that how does it look to say the president of the United States cannot come?
There you go.
She's got Democrats and Republicans on her.
So she's caught between a rock and a hard place. But again, moving forward to any HBCU, especially dealing with this liar.
Yes.
Yep.
You better say to anybody, we gonna be involved in this thing or not.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. Hey, folks. Second annual Life Love Jazz Experience in Cabo, November 7th through the 11th. I will be there, broadcasting Roland Martin Unfiltered there on that Thursday and Friday. If you want to participate, if you want to come out, it's going to be a grand time. 14 amazing acts. Go to lifeluxjazz.com. But if you cannot make it, you can still check out the live stream. You can have a guest pass, folks, $10.99 to watch all of the concerts over the course of 3 days. I'm talking about some amazing artists. That, of course, is my frat brother, Gerald Albright. Of course, we had Kirk Whalum on the show last week. He's going to be there as well. Some of the other people who are going to be in the house, actor, comedian Mark Curry. Oh, my goodness, Donnie McClurkin, Alex Bouillon, Raul Madan, Incognito, Pieces of a Dream, Average White Band, Shalea, Roy Ayers, Tom Brown, Ronnie Laws, Ernest Quarles. Man, it's going to be jam-packed. If you want to get the live stream, go to gfntv.com. That's gfntv.com, gfntv.com. You can watch all 3 days, live stream, all the concerts right here on your phone, on your iPad, on your computer, just for the cost of $10.99. So we certainly want you to do that, and we look forward to the Life Lux Jazz Experience there in Cabo. All right, folks. So many of you know that I am the closest you can get to a tech geek who's cool. Just letting y'all know. There's no pocket thing. I don't wear short sleeve dress shirts and ties. You'll never see me in a short sleeve dress shirt with an ascot. Not gonna happen. So, understanding television. Now, here's the deal. There's a difference between broadcast networks and cable networks. Okay? Broadcast networks are regulated by the Federal Communications Commission. Those are the public airwaves. They are allowed to broadcast nationally over the public airwaves, meaning it used to be you could get a television and you can turn the television on and you can watch all these channels when it was analog, but then when the digital signal changed, you had to get a digital signal. Now, it used to be no matter where you lived, you could pick up these stations. Some hanky-panky has been going on, though, and I know this for a fact because it's amazing in the places where I live how it's very difficult to get some of these channels. I personally believe what they're doing is they're blocking these signals or limiting the range of the signals to force you to get that cable set-top box to see your favorite channels. Now, let me further unpack that for you. Again, y'all, this is what I do. I've been doing it for my whole life as a journalist. There's a thing called retransmission. So here's what happened. These companies say, well, wait a minute, cable companies, y'all getting paid, and these people are watching ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox, so y'all need to start paying us. See, the way cable works, a lot of these cable companies, they get subscription fees. You might get 3, 5, 7 cents, 10 cents. ESPN was getting as many as $4 to $6 per subscriber, which is why the cable bills were so high. So then the broadcast company said, you got to pay retransmission fees. First person to do that was Les Moonves when he was at CBS. He understood the power of their signal. And we're talking about, folks, millions, 5, 6, 7, $800 million in retransmission fees. But they're supposed to have those signals for free to the public. So my next guest created lowcast.org.
Now, I'm going to pull up in a second. And so here's their web interface, folks. And so go to my iPad. And so this is what it is. So basically, what they've done is they've said, hey, people should be able to see their local stations. So I'm going to go here to the cities. Now, right now, they're in Washington, D.C., Chicago, L.A., Rapid City, Iowa. That's where Rapid City is, right?
South Dakota.
South Dakota. Mm-hmm. A whole bunch of white people. That's where they all know. Atlanta, Dallas, New York, San Francisco, Baltimore, Denver, Philadelphia, Seattle, Boston, Houston, Phoenix, Sioux Falls.
Also South Dakota.
Also South Dakota. No black people there. And they added somebody new. I saw the press release. And Seattle. So basically, if you're in these markets, you can watch your local net stations do this. Now, again, before I get to my guest, let me explain to you. This weekend, I'm in L.A. for the NABJ board meeting. I pay Xfinity, Comcast, for my cable. I should be able to watch my damn cable wherever I am. I'm paying for it. Nope. I pull up the Xfinity app in LA. I can't watch my cable. I'm trying to watch the Astros play the Nationals, and they beat them. But I can't because they're saying you're out of market. So here I am in the board meeting, bored out of my mind, trying to watch my Astros, and I can't, although I'm paying for it. Luckily with Locast. I pull them up, they're in LA. Click, I watch the game via their website as a result of this being created. The networks did not want to do that. You can't go to the local affiliate to watch the game. And you're like, wait a minute, I'm sorry, but this is the public airwaves. Well, my next guest created Locast, and he created not just so you can see it, he actually did it so they could sue him. The founder and president of Good Friend of Government Affairs, David Goodfriend. David, how you doing?
Hey, Roland, thanks for having me on the show.
Now, is that pretty much the story?
Well, that's about as good a send-up as I could ask for. You always tell it like it is. That's why I love you. I don't know about your choice of jerseys tonight, but I love you anyway.
This the only way I roll. It's the only way I roll. I got no problem with DC Tears by 11:30 tonight. Go ahead.
I better leave that alone. Anyway, look, Roland, the point that you make is true. It's kind of what we're all about. I've been a telecommunications lawyer for a long time. I worked at the FCC at one time. And it always struck me that these public airwaves that are supposed to bring locally oriented public news, weather, sports to everybody in the community, that's kind of been a lost value. You know, the broadcasters have no trouble going to Congress asking for billions of dollars for help. Hey, we got to move our transmitter. Okay, you got it. What they always argue is we're doing a public service by making these things free to people. Well, you're absolutely right when you say today, if you put up an antenna and you try to get an over-the-air signal, chances are you're going to have some trouble getting it.
Yep.
That's always been the case.
You might get some of them, and then if you hit rescan, you might get some of the other ones and not those. It's not like I'm going to get all of them, and that's what I'm supposed to get.
You are supposed to get it. And those broadcast companies have gotten a gift from you, the taxpayer, the American citizen, so that they can make it available to you. And the problem is people are paying more and more and more money. And I'm sorry, but when I was growing up, $100 a month meant a lot to our family. And there are plenty of people who simply cannot afford to pay these increasing fees. They're being forced to pay it because they're being told, if you want this whole package, you must pay us.
And not just the fees, the set-top fees.
Yes.
The cable industry fought viciously to keep that. And they said, Google and these folks want to take it over. No. The software, the Googles of the world were saying, damn it, put the apps on the box and sell the box to the consumer. Why is the consumer having to pay a set-top box fee every month? This was billions of dollars. And then here's the crazy thing. I got DirecTV service. When I got rid of it, they went, oh, by the way, you didn't own that box. Well, what the hell did I?
Yeah, you were paying a lease fee for
I'm
it.
sorry.
You took it back. That's right.
I bought something that I didn't own. That's the games they're playing.
That's right.
And so what they're doing now with this is forcing you, so the broadcasters are forcing you to go to the cable companies to get the cable, and the cable companies are paying the broadcasters the retransmission fee to carry their signal, and both of them making like a fat rat.
Everybody's making money except you. You're the one who gets shafted every single time. Now look, I mentioned that I worked at the FCC. I mentioned I've been involved in these issues. And I got to tell you, I've been disappointed over and over and over again. I have a successful practice. I represent big companies. But I got to tell you, I came to the conclusion that our current legislative process is never going to address this. I mean, we had a good laugh about that nominee, but we're living in a dysfunctional political time. And there's never going to be someone who steps forward and says, I'm going to take on those big money interests and do it. So my friends and I took a look at current law. And by the way, this was not our idea. I can't take credit for it. A lot of people have talked about this over the years. But there really is a provision in the Copyright Act that says if you are a nonprofit, you may retransmit a local broadcast signal. It's like crystal clear. There's no ambiguity about it. And for years, nonprofits would put up these towers, like translator services, they were called. I'm going to collect this signal and then boost it out so everybody can see it. Nobody ever sued. Nobody ever touched it. We said, I wonder if you could do that over the internet. I wonder if you could collect the broadcast signal over the air and retransmit it as a nonprofit in that market so that people who cannot afford cable can at least see their local broadcast TV stations. Love it. We launched it in January 2018 in New York City. And I thought, as Roland mentioned, like I did this to, I thought there's gonna be a lawsuit. I did. I thought, well, this is what broadcasters do. You do something like this, they sue you. It didn't happen. And we launched another market. And I thought, well, now for sure, I mean, they're gonna sue and we're gonna make our argument in court, and it didn't happen. A year and a half went by. We are now serving 40% of television households in the United States. And now they decided to sue. I think because they're seeing members of the public actually like this, they've caught on, and we get comments that would break your heart. I never used to be able to see my local public TV station. I can't afford cable.
Right.
And you come along and now I can watch it. Hey, I had to go into my basement during a tornado.
Yep.
There's no cable down in my basement. The over-the-air signal won't get there.
Yep.
I used your service to watch the weather reports about the tornado. It saved my life.
And
I can't make this up. It's all on our
and the reason
website.
The reason I totally understand this because I've always had portable televisions. I grew up in Houston.
Right.
Okay. Hurricanes.
Right.
All right. I was raised. You better have a portable device with batteries in case power goes out. So I always had the analog, and then I got the digital, the portable digital TVs. But they're now hard to find. Why? Because of the internet. So the problem is, okay, same thing. In a storm, I need to know what the hell's going on because power gets knocked out, Wi-Fi's out, TV's out, okay, radio. All of a sudden, it's like, so how are we now operating? And that's the absolute case. Then, again, understanding this, cord cutting comes along. People are saying, right, I'm tired of paying $200, $220, and now you throw on the internet as well. Now all of a sudden you're paying $300 and $400 a month in addition to your cell phone.
Oh my God.
So cord cutting comes along, and people are slashing. So what happens? People start saying, you know what, I don't need all that, because wait a minute, hold up. Why am I paying for the box? If I want to, because when Scandal was on, I could watch Scandal. Wait a minute, I can get an antenna. We were told, oh, don't get those antennas, big old rabbit ears. People are like, no, damn that. I put that on, wait a minute, hold up. That costs $19.99, $100 a month. I don't care about those rabbit ears.
Right.
But you're right. But the problem is, and I don't care, they're limiting those signals. Because I've scanned it too many times.
It's happening, Roland.
Right.
In fact, I will tell you.
They're doing it.
So I mentioned that the big four broadcast networks sued us. ABC, Disney, NBC, Comcast, NBC Universal, Fox, and CBS. They didn't just sue the nonprofit, though. They sued me personally.
Oh,
wow.
Dirty dogs.
It was an intimidation tactic, I believe. You will note that I am not intimidated. Anybody who's looking. And they also, I think, really opened up a can of worms for themselves because anybody who's in a fight will tell you the best defense is offense. You get hit, you hit back. So if they were going to sue me personally, I thought it was only right that I should hit them back. And we hit them back with allegations of collusion in violation of the antitrust laws, systematically trying to undermine our operation rather than just be upfront and state your claims. And in those claims, in those counterclaims we filed, we pointed out that it is harder and harder to get an over-the-air signal and we believe that this is purposeful. It's great for them if you have to go pay a cable company to get their programming. They get a share of those fees.
Retransmission fees.
So what incentive would they have to make sure that you can get an over-the-air signal? Very little.
So as a part of this, and y'all can jump in with questions as well, but as a part of this, by you countersuing, that means that as it goes forward, you can start doing tests to see, okay, how far is this signal traveling?
Yes.
Because again, when we switched from analog to broadcast and the federal government resold those rights, I don't know why I know this stuff, y'all, but I do. The federal government resold that technology to wireless providers for billions of dollars. We were told, oh, with the broadcast signal, it's going to be the same as analog. So you can get the station now in your analog, you can get it with broadcast. And all of a sudden, you can't. Then you have people like, that was a company, they had a device.
Aereo.
That connected to the phone, allow you to pick up the broadcast signal.
Oh, yes.
So I was like, okay, cool. The company sent me one of the devices and did the same thing. It scanned your local stations. But then I was trying to watch an NFL game. Oh, the NFL was blocking it. And you're like, wait a minute, hold up. I'm sorry. How can I watch it on my TV, but you're blocking it here? Because they wanted me to pay their internet rights as well.
Now, let me be clear about something, though. I want to make this really clear because it was a surprise to me. I have been surprised at the positive response I've gotten from small local broadcasters. One of them called me up out of the blue and said, I want to help you. I said, are you sure you have the right number? He said, yeah, I want to help you. And today, we're in business with a small broadcaster. We put our receive antenna on his tower and our servers in his station. Now, why would that broadcaster want help from us?
More people watching local
More
programming.
people watching local. Because you know what? Young people, if you say today, do you know the difference between broadcast and cable? You're like, what?
Yeah.
You know, it's on my phone or it's not.
Their eyes glazed over when Roland was trying to explain it. They're like,
Really?
he's talking foreign language.
But you know something? That's a smart, small business person who owns a small station who says, I'm getting crushed by these big players from all sides. I like you, Locast, because you're actually helping me reach a new audience, a bigger audience. I want to work with you. And by the same token, there are plenty of people in the cable industry who are like, do we really like this? This guy's helping people cut the cord.
Yep.
We're not like that. So what I've learned is that within industry, there are big variations of how people feel about this. Among consumers, there is no ambiguity.
No.
They love it. We are absolutely performing a public service as a nonprofit. And by the way, among the accusations leveled against me is that this is somehow a scheme for me to make money or for me to get ahead. I have collected $0. If anything, my wife is mad at me for the amount of time I've spent on this instead of going to make real money. I'm not doing this because I need to make a buck. I'm fine. I'm just frustrated with our policymaking process. I think consumers are getting shafted. I'd like to think when they put me in the ground, I did something useful with my life, and this is it. This is the fight of my life.
So what can consumers do to help support you?
I appreciate that. Well, you can log on. If you're in any one of the markets that we serve, and Roland listed a bunch of them.
Pull it up.
You can go to locast.org. You can download the app on Apple, on Roku, on Android, and you can become a contributing member at $5 a month. Now, keep in mind, you don't have to become a contributing member. You can use the service. We're going to bug you a lot and say, please become a contributing member. Most people use the service and don't contribute. That's cool. It's supposed to be free, but we do have costs. We got to rent that tower space. We got to buy those servers. So if you would contribute $5 a month for all your local channels, pretty good deal, you'll keep us afloat. And the more people that do this, it really is fascinating, Roland. This is a true grassroots project. We're funded by voluntary contributions from users, and it's working. It's working. People are grateful. They're like, thank you. You know what? I will contribute to you. So that's the best way to do it. And by the way, you should use the service. It's great. Your local broadcasters, all the advertising that's on there, we just retransmit it. You watch those ads, and it helps locally.
And see, before Erica go to Erica, so and I'm not picking on anybody, but again, understanding how capitalism works. So when Les Moonves ran CBS, what they did is they created CBS All Access.
Right.
So essentially, in order for you to watch your local program on your pad, they want you to buy CBS All Access. And you're like, wait a minute, it's free. Here's something also y'all don't realize. And again, Les Moonves, no longer there, but it was brilliant. Y'all, this is about to trip y'all out, okay? Again, this is the geek in me talking to y'all right now.
I love the geek in you.
So when I travel, I'm in hotels everywhere. I ain't like these damn kids, okay? I had 9 of my nieces and nephews crowding around a 13-inch laptop watching a video when 10 feet away was a damn 50-inch TV. It was the stupidest thing. I took a picture like, click, click. It's a big-ass TV. What are y'all doing? So when I go to travel, okay, I plug in my iPad to that 50-inch TV in the hotel room because I ain't trying to look at the iPad. CBS would block you. They will block. You could not. I would go in the hotel, unplug the HDMI cable, plug it in my iPad, just like this here. This zoom it out. This is the exact same thing. HDMI cable to the adapter into my iPad, plug into the television. They blocked it. I called them, and they said, "Oh yeah, you can only watch your content on your iPad." Yeah. I said, every other network lets me plug in my iPad to the television to watch it on television. No, because they did not want you to cut the cord.
Now listen, Roland, you want to know who really is pissed off about CBS All Access? In my humble opinion, the CBS affiliate.
Yep.
The local affiliate says, wait a minute, I thought I got an exclusive in this deal. I thought I was the provider of CBS network programming in Washington, D.C. or Houston.
Okay, so
CBS is saying, we're going to crush you.
Because you got to explain, but what people don't understand is that, okay, so CBS cuts deals with local TV stations to be their affiliate.
Right.
Those are local TV stations. The networks only owned and operated stations. And we're only talking about 10, 12, 15.
Right.
When you get 165, 175 affiliates, you're actually paying somebody else. Right. When they created that all access, the local station was like, wait a minute, that money's going to y'all.
Right.
So they're not, and so they're advertising, and so they're losing money.
Right.
Because of that.
So let's bring this back to basics, okay? Let's bring it to basics of why
then Erica,
people should
go ahead.
care. Oh, sorry, Erica. You want to say something?
No, please.
Well, the basics here. Real people who have to pay real bills are getting shafted. They need a break, okay? How many times have you tried to fight back the cable company or any company and they say, oh, sorry, read the fine print. You lose. For once, we are saying, no, you read the fine print. Go read the Copyright Act. It says we can do this. We're on your side, the consumer. That's number one. Number two, localism was supposed to mean something. The local TV station that gives you local news, local weather, local sports, local political coverage. Remember that?
Yeah. Right.
Right? Yeah. Local communities actually getting a voice. Remember that? That's really being curtailed in our current system, and it hurts. We actually believe at Locast that we're helping the local affiliate reach a broader audience and thrive and push back, push back a little bit on that big network that's saying, we want to take all the money, we want to own all the eyeballs. And the last thing I'll say is, isn't it about time that being a nonprofit means you win? Congress had the right idea in 1976 when they said in the Copyright Act, a nonprofit can do something that a for-profit cannot do. Imagine in the world of banking if credit unions had more of a leg up. Imagine in healthcare if nonprofit insurance companies work. They exist, right? Imagine if pharmaceuticals were nonprofit. There were a group of hospitals that actually formed their own nonprofit pharmaceutical company. And I will say, since you're wearing a sports jersey, I'm a Packers fan. The Packers are the only nonprofit fan-owned team in all of professional
publicly traded, right? And they will not allow any other city to do it.
There you go. So I believe that if we pull the camera back and look at the big picture, what we're really doing here is pro-consumer, pro-local community, and nonprofit. And those things we need more of in this society right now. Not
Erica?
Yeah, I'm very glad that Roland had you here to explain it to us and then to the larger viewing audience, because just reading the article, I must say I did not have a full understanding. So I have a much better, well-rounded understanding. And so with your market expansion, so I'm from Albany, Georgia, which is southwest of Atlanta. It's about 90,000 people. So to you, are those markets where there is internet access that you all would be able to expand to as well, where local really is very much so a thing?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I'm really proud of the fact, I know that they, well, I'm not gonna say, I'm very proud of the fact that we have those two markets in South Dakota. They're small, okay? But they came to me and said, we'd really like to have your service in our market. And we worked with them They provided the roof space for us to put an antenna. They went around and raised money so we could buy the servers and come to town. And an interesting fact is that broadband availability is greater than broadcast over-the-air reach. Let me say that a different way.
Wow.
You are more likely to have broadband in those communities than you are to get an over-the-air broadcast signal.
And that's because it changed because the cable companies all own the pipes into your homes, and so they flipped the switch. They said, oh, phone service, not a problem. We have broadband. So you're no longer paying for the phone service, you're now paying these escalating costs, which is why I was a huge proponent of net neutrality.
Right on.
Saying forget this whole deal where if you pay more, you get to be in a faster lane than me.
Right.
Why am I also a proponent of that? Because this digital show allows us to compete against CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. And so if they got an opportunity to be in a faster lane and I'm slower, you're going to be frustrated if I'm buffering. You're not going to watch me.
And let's really put a sharp point on it. Black Lives Matter started as an online movement. If you give somebody a gatekeeper function, they can say that gets shown and that doesn't, you lose that. So I'm totally with you on net neutrality. And on the point of the smaller communities, yes, we've actually seen how broadband with an open internet can serve a lot of homes, and a lot of those homes can't get an over-the-air signal. So it's working in South Dakota, and it's working in Manhattan, where a lot of times people can't get an over-the-air signal. My only point to you is if I can get more people to sign up and contribute, we're going to turn that money right around, buy more servers, launch more markets. We're doing it now. Even though we've been sued, we're launching more markets. We're going to keep marching. And anybody in any community, come find us. If you want to bring Locast to your community, we've done it in 2 small markets. We'll do it in more.
So I'm looking down the line where your lawsuit collides with a stupid judge, because that's what we're getting more and more of. And I'm hearing you say that it's right there in the Copyright Act, and that's wonderful. And so we're going to have the judge that doesn't know day-to-day operations, right, and has never filed a motion looking and coming up with some wacky interpretation. And then we'll just chase it all the way up to the Supreme Court, and I have no assurance about anything that could happen there. So I'm wondering, are there any other ways to protect the service that you're providing? Like, to me, from what you described, there are real public safety interests involved in people having access to at least local news, which now they do not.
They don't. It's a great question. I'm still idealistic enough to believe in our court system. And I'm still idealistic enough to believe that even I, as a progressive liberal, am prepared to make a conservative argument to any judge who will listen. The law is what the law says. They say it all the time. It's called, plain meaning statutory construction. Well, the law says this. Okay, then if that's really how we're living, then the law says a nonprofit can retransmit. I want to put that to the test. It's just a plain meaning interpretation. Now, I also happen to think that we are in the Southern District of New York, a very, sophisticated court with a very sophisticated judge, a judge who's been around for many years, who's been very fair. And I still say it. I have faith in our judicial system. I believe we have the best, strongest, cleanest arguments. Again, the reason they're shooting at me is to distract whoever's the judge from what's really going on. Hey, look at that guy. He's a lobbyist.
Right.
Hey, look at that guy. He's just trying to make money. We can't prove it, but we think it. He's trying to make money.
But even if you win, okay, and the bigs get together and they lobby to get Congress to do what they weren't willing to do before, and then we're looking at legislation to change the Copyright Act. Okay, whatever way the bad people, whatever way the poor people who were affected, I'm waiting for that one. They're just looking at the lawsuit. They're looking at it right now.
No, so you're right. You're absolutely right. Their next move would be to go to Congress. Their next move would go to Congress.
What could, where's the buffer? Is there something that we could do in grassroots effort other than watching that could undergird and support and justify why this is necessary? Because this directly affects impoverished communities.
Question
black folk, white folk, all folk, poor folk.
But about folks who are giving, that's the database of people who are going to be saying, okay, now let's mobilize and organize.
Exactly.
And again, making the argument because the cost. What has happened is, again, cable reached a point, I think, at its highest inflection point. I think the highest
90%.
point, it was at 105 or 106 million homes.
That's right, 90%.
So it used to be mid 70s, broadcast networks were in 98% of American homes.
Yep.
Cable comes in late 70s, all of a sudden, then early 80s, then it explodes in the 90s, and it goes up more than 100 million. You only had about 14 or 15 networks that were above 100 million. CNN, HLN, ESPN. ESPN was charging, I mean, it was crazy. So $5 to $7 of every bill was going to ESPN. Then all of a sudden, every year, cable customer service got worse, bill kept going high. And I was sitting there going, there's gonna be a point where the public says,
enough.
You know what?
Yep.
Y'all can kiss my ass.
Yep.
And the cable companies kept saying, they'll never leave us because they were using sports against people.
Yep.
I watched my Big Ten game, my SEC game. Then it got to the point, millennials were born. Millennials were like, they don't give a shit about TV.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, millennials don't give a shit about TV, coincides with technology. Then, for the first time, we saw in history the number of television sets being purchased decrease. I never forget, it decreased by 1%. And I said, I know.
That's my kind of weirdo.
But this
I
is
like
my,
this weirdo.
this
I
is
like
my
it.
business.
I love
this
it.
is my
Know your business.
And it
Yeah.
decreased. And I said, it's starting.
Right.
And then, about 6 years ago, I said, when somebody creates a DVR to record over the air, this bad boy's about to accelerate. Channel Master did. They sent me one. Channel Master, and that's why I don't understand what the hell Tim Cook was doing. If Tim Cook had put a damn coaxial in that Apple TV to now be able to watch over the air through your Apple TV.
Well, Apple TV has Lowcast. You can use the Lowcast app on Apple TV. That was a key move for us. And so now, if you get that Apple TV device and you don't want to pay a bunch for cable, but you do want to watch your local news, whether sports, whatever, download our app right there on Apple TV. Same with Roku. Same with Android. So look, there's another historical point that I want to put out again to try to make this relevant to the larger themes of your show. Those cable systems were built in urban communities with franchise agreements that promised something back to the community. Here, you can use all these rights of way, you can dig up the streets, but you got to serve the community. And yet, those very same systems now have been sold and aggregated into massive corporations, Comcast chief among them. And I don't believe the community that really helped get them off the ground has been given its fair shot.
And they gave several African Americans, David Percy Sutton in New York at one of the franchises.
Yes.
Johnny Johnson had one of the franchises in Chicago. And then they sold those in the early 80s before this whole thing exploded.
That's right.
And you're right. And so those cable companies then went from owning, and then, because I have the copy of the speech, Kathy Hughes gave a speech at the Rainbow Push where she said, okay, it's a shame that we launched TV One and we had to give Comcast equity in our network to guarantee we get put on. So that also was happening. And so all of a sudden you went from the cable companies now owning the cable channels. And so now they own the content that's on their very systems, and they're making that money and not owning the broadband as well. So it's like, oh, we're vertical and horizontal. We're going to get the money in every single way.
Exactly.
And so it's all this sort of game, but it's now, it's so costly. Cord cutting is blowing up. ESPN is now in 87 million homes.
That's a lot.
They've lost 13, do the math. They lost 13 million homes, y'all. Multiply 13 million subs by $6 by 12.
They're scared.
Billions of dollars lost because people said, I'm sick of paying all this money for cable. And this now allows them to watch. And go to my iPad, please, because see, y'all might be thinking this is ABC, NBC, CBS. No, because of the broadcast, when it was switched, used to be analog broadcast. Come back to me, I'll tell you. It's an analog broadcast. So here's what happened. So Channel 4 now has Channel 4.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. So they now have 4 stations. So Bounce TV,
right,
network targeting African Americans, how they become a broadcast network. They went to the local markets and said, we want to lease from you your 0.1 or 0.2 station. So, go to my iPad. So here you see Channel 4, Channel 5, Channel 7, Channel 9, Univision, Fox, this independent, this DC, this is the CW.
Yep.
Then you see WETA, Telemundo, Cozy, Charge, Comet, I don't know what this T, whatever it is, Justice, Get TV, Grit, Bounce, Buzz, Me TV, Movies, you know, and so and then yes, the what was that the bottom. So what is these are all digital stations. So it used to be there were 3 stations growing up. Then when Fox came on, it was 4. Now because of the digital signal, you now have 20 or 30 in Houston. Huge international population. It's like 50 channels because now you have, and the same thing in DC, Vietnamese, you have Saudi Arabian, Chinese, you got all these different stations. So now, because of broadcast, some places you've got 40 and 50 stations.
Now look, Roland, I'm so glad you're mentioning this because cable companies and satellite companies do not carry those multicast, so-called multicast stations. We do, because we're not limited except by how many servers we can buy. So please go contribute and we can buy more servers. But this is a way to serve local communities too. You'll notice, I keep saying go to that PBS Kids. That's the multicast stream off of a public TV station. Now you can put that on the phone and throw it in the back seat and have the kids watch PBS Kids while you're in the car on Lowcast.
It's You Kids now.
Oh, is it You Kids?
Yeah, it's short for Universal Kids.
See,
I'm a mom.
I'm an empty
But
nester.
I would be very excited about that being, that would be a big
My kids are all
offering
grown.
for me.
I don't know anybody.
Yeah,
but
that would be
for
a big
our
offering.
audience, and I know somebody's, y'all probably comment like, why the hell are you spending all of this time? Because I need, and this is going to be the last point, and then we're going to have David give his final comments, because I need black people to understand the game. I was with TV One 13 of its first 14 years. Don't think I was just some face. No, I was sent around this country. I helped build that damn network. Oh, let me be real clear. I was sent to Rochester, New York to do community engagement, to get TV One carried there. I was sent to Charleston, to Fort Worth, Texas, sent to San Antonio, sent to cities all across the country. Jonathan Rogers, the founding CEO, my alpha brother, good friend of mine, we talked the business. I ain't just some person sitting on the air. I know the business of this business. Here's what the cable companies did. They put, BET was the first black cable network. So BET basically was grandfathered in. BET's on basic cable. You can go to a hotel room anywhere in the country. For the most part, any place in the country, BET is gonna be in the local cable system because they're on basic cable. Every other black network that came after them, they put them on the higher tier. I did work with Major Broadcasting Cable Network, later became the Family Channel. That's what they did. But that's what they did with TV One. They put us on the top tier. So what they did to black folks is, listen to me, y'all, they will put TV One near on the same tier as HBO, Showtime, and Stars. So if you wanted TV One, you had to pay for the highest level of cable. You hear what I just said? Black people, less income than any other group, lowest amount of wealth, forced to pay higher cable bills because of where black networks are. That was by design. They put black, Monique says she's a parent. Guess who is also in the highest tier? Family channels. Because they want families paying for the highest cable possible. So, black people are paying for the highest cable and the set-top box and spending $150, $200 a month on cable. This now says, wait a minute, you don't need to do that. And now, whether on your pad, your phone, your computer, or Apple TV, whatever, you can watch it wherever you want to watch it. Understand the game. Billions are being reaped off of us, and that's what is trying to be protected here. David, final comment.
Well, Roland, I want to end by talking about something from my day job so you can see where my heart lies. One of my clients is a man named Byron Allen. He is an African-American media company owner of the highest order. He recently bought the Weather Channel, as you just mentioned. Byron sued Comcast for discrimination under the Civil Rights Act of 1866 for discriminating in
Comcast
contract.
charter, several. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
All right, so you've covered the case.
Oh, yes.
So we're talking about a company, Comcast, that rather than go to trial just to prove that they didn't discriminate, would rather appeal to the Supreme Court and its conservative majority and work with the Trump administration. They've actually given time to the Trump DOJ.
Because when you go before the Supreme Court, you only get, what, 30 minutes for
They've
oral
given
arguments?
10 of those minutes.
They have given 10 of those minutes to the Trump Department of Justice. I can't recall the last time a private entity is giving the government their time, to argue on their behalf.
So I bring this up because when you connect those dots and explain to the African American community what's going on and what they're up against, I'm being sued by that company personally. And I welcome that fight. And I welcome the chance to beat them in court so that ordinary people can get a break for once. These things are not unrelated. They're absolutely connected. And I just can't thank you enough for bringing me on the show.
I
and talk about LOCAST.
Folks, again, it is locast.org. Please show it again, and you'll see it when you actually log in. You see a live TV guide. These are all the cities that you can actually see the local programming in, and then you have the particular profile as well. The donate button is here as well. I told y'all, I mean, that's the only way I was able to watch the game, and because I didn't have my Sling box connected. And again, you have to buy all the other stuff to be able to watch programming you already paying for, which is nonsensical, but that's what's going on here. And so, David, we certainly appreciate it. And the Byron Allen Supreme Court case is going to be heard on November 13th.
November 13th, that's right.
And so I got to find out how we get a seat to actually hear the oral arguments. We plan on having our cameras there, and so I want to be able to hear those arguments and then get folks in and out. So, again, locast.org. David, we appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Yep. All right, folks, Life Lux Jazz Experience taking place in Cabo, November 7th through the 11th next week. Yours truly will be there. We want you to be there as well. Go to lifeluxjazz.com, LIFELUXEJAZZ.com. 14 acts, Gerald Albright, Kirk Whalum, Average White Band, Shalea, Ronnie Laws. I mean, it's going to be jam-packed. Now, here's the deal. If you can't go, I understand. But you can also participate by getting the live streaming pass from GFNTV.com, GFNTV.com. $10.99, you'll get to see all of the concerts over the course of 3 days. It's fantastic. Oh, did I tell you that GFNTV.com, Black-owned? Yeah, as well. And so, also, Life Love Jazz Experience, Black-owned. A sister created this to provide an opportunity for African Americans who live in a lot of these cold states, even though climate change has screwed that sucker up, to opportunity, of course, to hang out in Mexico for 4 days and have a great time. I'll be doing Roland Martin Unfiltered there next Thursday and Friday from Cabo, but you can experience the concerts by going to GFNTV.com and getting your live streaming pass. So please do so, and we look forward to checking it out.